One. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Breaking Free podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Francis. Today, very grateful, very humbled to be joined by Ben Grant Mitchell. It's been a while. Well, it's been a while trying to find time to get Ben on. It's just been a bit of a horror show the last couple of years, but I finally got Ben on. Ben, welcome to my show today. You are a sound empowerment coach with a very awesome story. When I was going through all your stuff, you did say acting, but didn't actually know you're in Neighbours back in the 90s. So there's obviously some stories there, Ben, about how you transformed into who you are today. So, Ben, welcome to my show. My younger audience will absolutely love hearing some of your amazing stories today, mate. So, welcome aboard and let's get this show on the road.
Thank you, Nathan. And you've jumped right in there with the Neighbours reference, so let's run with it.
Yeah.
And since you say you've got a younger audience, then they may know Margot Robbie. They may know her. Now, I went back on Neighbours the second time in about 2008, I think it was, and I actually played her father. Now,
Did
this
you?
was a moment in my life where I realised I was getting older, and it was the first time I'd played a father like that, or one of the first times. But previously to that, I'd been on Neighbours in the 90s, circa Natalie and Imbruglia. Ask your mum and dad, and they might remember Natalie and Imbruglia and all the crew back then. But the acting part of my story to become a coach is integral, really, because in many ways we are all acting in our life until we reach some sort of awakening or maturity where we are speaking other people's words. We are taking directions from other people, sometimes authorities like governments or corporate media, which is bombarding us with information, which is instructions on how to behave, what to buy, where to go, what to do, what to drink, how to poison yourself in new and impressive ways, all that sort of stuff. So when you awaken, and that happens in different ways for all of us, as you know, and we'll share no doubt during this podcast, when you awaken, then you have to find your own words.
Mm.
You have to find your own direction. And so for me, I was someone who I knew I wanted to have a positive effect on the world. I am a very sensitive person and I have sensitivities that were well suited to acting, being able to cry on cue, um, thinking you have a great sense of humor, as everyone does, and and at that time being able to remember lines. These were all great skills that were suited to acting. But there are other. It's like anything in life. As we get older and mature, we can apply our same natural talents to new forms. And for the last 5 years, I've been coaching. The last 2 years in particular, I've really found my niche. And I know that every experience I've had has been valuable and has led me to this point now to do what I do.
Yeah, love that. So we might as well get into it. So what was it that awoke you to, well, for me, it was learning the truths of the world first and then my own. So what was it? What was the catalyst for you? Everyone knows my story with the documentary. Like, what was it for you?
I think it actually goes back to first discovering Joseph Campbell and the myths that he was responsible for really sharing with the world and that way of thinking. And Joseph Campbell was a leader who coined the term "follow your bliss," and there was something that spoke to me about those simple words. Follow your bliss. I mean, it must have been. I'm a musician as well. Well, I don't work as a musician anymore, but I was a musician at the same time as I was an actor. My first album was called Bliss. It must have resonated with me. I knew I had something inside me that wanted to connect with just that joy, that
Mm.
love of life, that abundance, the celebration, the all possibilities. And a lot of my life at the time was like, um, so I'm just remembering
You're
having a
right.
temp job where I was a car park attendant underground at some finance building, and my job was to let executives in and out. So this was while I was making music, I was doing these temp jobs, which were soul destroying, but the music was keeping my soul alive, and the acting too, and the writing as a songwriter. And So that bliss, that was the start for me of seeing some sort of split in the world between what was expected and what was normal and what
Mm.
you should do and what my heart was telling me I wanted to do. And so that journey led me on to read lots of what was termed new age books at the time, but self-development, self-empowerment, you know, everyone from Wayne Dyer, Stephen Covey, all the Dale Carnegie, Tony Robbins, all those guys that we know and love. And then I came across Stuart Wilde, and Stuart Wilde had a way of writing which spoke to me like no other author that I'd ever read, and it was so accessible, but also not confronting, challenging, let's say. And what happened was I was broke, but I was following my dream. I was going to go to London and do music, and I bought a one-way ticket because that's all I could afford. And I met a friend from acting, and she said, "Here, you need this," and she gave me a little book called Miracles. It's tiny.
Oh,
I've
you
got a
got it?
copy here somewhere. I'll show you. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
oh, here
that.
we go. For those watching on YouTube, there's the book. Oh,
And for
wow.
those not, it's about the size of my hand and it's
Yeah.
no thicker than half a fingernail. It's a tiny little book, and that changed the course of my life. I
Wow.
started reading everything that he wrote. He was basically talking about, to summarize his work, energy. You are the energy. You are creating this life. And to really fully empower yourself, you need to find a way to disconnect from everything else in your life. Now, that doesn't mean that you separate yourself from your loved ones, but it means that you recognize that you have the ultimate authority in your life and the ultimate power to create it. Now, not in a political way, but in a very internal, energetic way. And so his writing really helped me while I was in London for 7 years working as a singer songwriter, running a club there. One night when I was watching I don't know how much we're allowed to say these days, but you check me if I go past the censorship rules of
Yeah.
the podcast. It was, the date was the 9/11 date, and we
Ooh.
had a night on of we had a night of the songwriter club that I was running, and as was what I did, I set up that night, but then I go to see a movie and sorry, I set up the gear for the night, and then I'd often go and watch a movie to chill out and prepare. And on the way from the movie to the club, I passed a store with the television screens on, and I watched this interesting situation happen where these buildings were controlled demolition. I saw these buildings, and I thought, I haven't seen that since like Sesame Street, or they used to show that on kids' shows. Like, this is how you demolish a building
Yeah,
so
they
that it
did.
falls,
Yeah.
right? They used to
Yep.
show that on those kids'
I was
shows,
only a
and this is,
kid. Yeah.
yeah, right. So we're getting it into our heads, but this is what a building looks like when you put explosives in it and you control the demolition so it goes down on its own. What do they saw? On its own site, basically on its own footprint, so it doesn't, fall over and ruin other buildings and cost, lots of lives and
Yeah, it
billions
just
of
fell
dollars or
straight
whatever.
down. Yeah.
Anyway, so I saw what lots of people saw, but I saw it with different eyes because I'd already awake up. David Icke, a friend had got me into David Icke. Well, he introduced me to David Icke back in 1993 or something, right? And so I was aware of his work and some of his writings, but I wasn't really sort of right immersed in them. But all these things combined for me to look at this incident and go, that's not what they're selling it as. That's not
Yeah.
what they're saying it is. Now, without going right down that one, because that's a rabbit hole all of its own, of course,
Yep.
but my instinct told me that is not what they're saying it is. So I went to the club and I went with the showbiz motto that the show must go on. But some other people were saying, "Oh no, we can't go on now. It's too, out of respect." For me, it was a matter of respect for the people that lost their lives to continue, because we were singing. This is all original musicians singing from their hearts, their souls, bringing something of love, resilience, and courage into the world. That's how I viewed it. And it seemed like very important to keep going with that at the time. But there was about half the house there normally is. But that was one of the turning points again. In fact, before that too, there was Princess. See, I am a bit older. There was
Mm.
Princess Di, who
True.
who and I was working in a cinema at the time when I heard of that, and something about that just didn't ring true as well.
Mm.
So I had this awakening of my instinct, I guess, and trusting myself, and
Yeah.
not everything is what they're saying it is. So I slowly but surely moved away from believing everything I saw on the news, by reacting to everything I saw on the news, by getting emotional about whatever's on the papers, by, being told who I should scare, what people I should be scared of in the world, whether, you shouldn't even go. There was bomb warnings and all that sort of stuff, on planes, and even flying overseas, you felt like a hero. Like, oh my god, I'm going to go anyway. I don't care, because the fear was just everywhere, and it's still, it's still there today if you want to subscribe to it and get into it. But so that was, it's been a gradual journey. But of course, 2020 is where you really had to draw the line in the sand and say, all right, publicly, this is where I stand on these matters. I might have kept it more private till then, but you had no choice, because if you were someone who chose not to wear a face mask, you pretty much painted the red cross on your back, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah. For me, it wasn't as I could say. For you, it seemed like a very slow dot by dot process. For me, it was just wham, bam, thank you. You're awake now. Now you need to start. Just being the rebel straight away. Didn't really have a grace period. It was sort of just there and like, all right, well, I'm not going to do this. So here I am, everyone. I'm different to all of you, and I don't give a fuck. But back then, I actually sort of did. You
Well,
know what I mean?
on some level, we all still give a fuck, right? Like, it's
Yeah, we
nice that
do.
we can find each other, but you had to go through that portal of being willing to be all alone. It felt like, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
And
Yeah.
and if you had the courage to do that on your own terms, very quickly, I found the universe introduce you to fellow seekers like yourself, right? Where even in a small town where we were living, we managed to find half a dozen people
Same.
who wanted to meditate by the river rather than run around screaming about who's wearing a mask or how many jabs they've had. Um, you found some calm within the storm, and
Mm,
then out of that, well, here we are still talking. So it's like we just upgraded, however you want to say it. We found our people. There's lots of ways that people talk about what happened for those who chose a different route,
mm.
and I feel more blessed in my life now than ever before.
Same. The last 5 years, 100% grateful, humble, very, yeah, very blessed too. Yeah, I just sing true to that. It's so true. We've gotten from Neighbours to your awakening to now 2020. So for you, it was like for me too. How was it putting yourself out there in a very public space of being like, well, you know what? I don't actually believe what they're selling us. How was that process for you? We spoke about it off air, but I actually kind of want you to delve into it because it was actually really empowering because it helped, you know, it could help someone now that's starting to see things a bit differently.
I feel the wonderful invitation was one I couldn't resist. Isn't there a line in one of the Godfather films? We'll make him an invitation he can't resist, or something like that. It's like the universe did that to me. It's like, are you going to be a father, or are you going to be a pushover? Shit, like, are you going to live in a world where they're putting masks on people and saying that's normal, or are you going to say, hey, kids, we don't do that in this family. You breathe, all right? Um, and I remember one of the first posts I did wasn't so confrontational. I didn't think it was simply about, hey, they're censoring my page. I've never had this before. Are they censoring your page? Like, this is just information. I was finding information and sharing it,
Yep.
from other experts or whatever, and it was just getting deleted. And so that was total mindfuck for me. It was so new to like, what? Deleted? What's this? Like, I've never had that experience before. And as someone who believes in, oh well, believes in freedom of speech, like, it means you're going to hear stuff you don't like as well. But hey, you get to choose. That's what growing up means. And sure, we need to protect the children sometimes from certain things, but at a certain point, you're an adult and you can just turn off or just scroll past. But having things deleted, that was very alarming to me. So I stood up and I filmed in my in-laws' house, I remember, and for me, it was the first step in saying, not worrying so much about my image. Now,
Yeah, okay.
whatever this was a struggle I had too. It was real, the struggle from acting and from music. You were always encouraged to have an image, right? Whether
Yeah.
that was if you had a girlfriend and you were in a band, you had to pretend you were single, to be attractive to more people. Or when you're on, yeah, I remember doing acting magazine interviews, the same sort of vibe. You had to present this available heartthrob vibe, even if you were happily in a relationship, all that sort of stuff. Now, I'm not saying they forced you to, but at that age, with that impressionable quality that I had, you want to please, you want to go. Well, I did. I wanted to do what was going to advance my career, and so image and which is just not authenticity was very important. Even if I didn't have a particular out, I wasn't like Prince or someone, although I did get my hair cut like him once, but that's another story.
Oi.
Um, but I didn't have any sort of special image. I was just an alt folk country blues songwriter, but I knew I was already stepping outside of what was accepted for that, right? We don't want that from you. I knew the world's pretty much like that, right? You don't get to speak about this. And it was like, well, I don't care. And so then you start to lose some gigs here and there. And then you get, people. I remember saying once, if I never play, when I had a ban on people who weren't vaccinated playing in venues in Melbourne. And I said, well, if I never play again in a venue, I'm okay with that, which was hard for me to say. I mean, I've done it my whole
Yeah.
life.
Mm.
And then someone chimes in, we're happy with it too, Ben, if you never play again. And like saying, this is from the musicians, really cruel stuff, saying
Mm.
like, that what I'm talking about before about you're out of the tribe now. So you put your head up, you say something that is against the norm, and you will be attacked. And so I experienced that. But to be honest, I wish I'd done it sooner. I wish, in some ways, that I'd. Well, I do believe everything happens in divine order, but I am very glad I didn't. Let's put it into a positive. I didn't. I'm very glad I didn't wait a second longer to speak my mind.
Yeah, that's yeah. Because, obviously I'm a lot younger than you. Like I started when I was like 26. You'd have been like in your prime acting Neighbours back then for you when you were 26, eh?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, well, it was 23 when I was first on Neighbours, or 22 even. And yeah, I probably acted for about a couple of decades, about a decade and a half. Yeah.
Yeah, so from 2020, putting yourself out there and getting ostracized from society like a lot of people were, you know, isn't it interesting though? I will say this though, it is interesting that I wonder what they'd say to you now if you walked down there and said, you know what, like if I want to play, I can go and play. You know what I mean? Like,
I think a lot of them would say, "Oh, I never wore a face mask either." I think they reframe their history because they can see the cowardice that they were part of. They can see the mind programming that they were controlled with.
hmm,
Although at the same time, there's a lot who can't and
yeah,
won't, and that's okay too. Gives us a job to do, I guess.
yes, it does, 100%. So from 2020. I found you through Jason Christoph, which a lot of my guests have been through Jason Christoph. Like, let's just go there. So how did you, well, actually, might be the same for you. How did Jason find you? Because I know for me, Jason just found me one beautiful morning. So did Jason find you or did you find Jason? And how
Well,
did that then catapult you to what you're doing now? Because what you're doing now is absolutely sensational. So let's get to that good stuff.
it's very interesting that you put it like that. I love it. We find each other, don't we?
Yep.
Even if we feel like I discovered Jason because I contacted him to get the to inquire about the coaching that he was offering, the course that he was offering to become a freedom from self sabotage coach. And it was from simply following that lead, as I recall, another friend who became a Path client, who was also a Jason Christoph student. I believe she shared some of his stuff on her feed, and I'd found her probably through Instagram because she was sharing. She Bieber Tanya
Yep.
was sharing her heartfelt, courageous, and singular at the time uh, speeches about the atrocities of all this in England. And she was just, because she was so authentic and felt exactly how I felt about what was going on, I immediately connected with her and started following her. And and I believe that's how Jason turned up in my Facebook feed. And then so everything I saw him saying made a lot of sense. I loved that he was obviously a bit more on the track, further along the track in speaking his mind and found his power. And to his credit, I remember times where he would come back to my Facebook page when I was sharing, and people would be, attacking me, and he would comment on their comment saying, um, drawing attention to their cowardice basically and their ignorance in the perfect way that Jason can. Is very good at doing that. And I was so impressed. I just thought, this guy's the real deal, right?
Mm.
And so then I did his training in 2020. And at that time, he was still doing the personal one on one. So
Yeah.
I got, like you, I had that really great coaching, and I got the course and I got the certificate, and so I was officially a coach. But I also felt I needed to find my own way to do this work,
I did the same. Yeah. Yep.
and so I didn't rush. I set up some social media channels. I came up with my name, Grant Empowerment Coaching, because my middle name's Grant. I thought that's good. I want to grant empowerment, but we also grant ourselves empowerment.
Yeah. Love
So
that.
Grant Empowerment Coaching, I like the ring of that. And I just started taking the baby steps into sharing my viewpoints, the knowledge I'd gained, and whatever unique way I had of doing that. And that's evolved so much over those 5 years
Mm.
now, but particularly over the last 2 years. And I remember going back to gym when we were living in Victoria still, and I was working out, and I heard a woman next to me, young woman, and her headphones came out, I think, and I heard that she was listening to the news, and it was just like total fear porn of the time. Was it about some new virus or people dying or something? But it was just, I'm like, how are you listening to that while you're working out?
Yeah.
Like, this is after doing the course. And so the subconscious programming is right in my mind.
Mm.
And how are you listening to that and it not affecting you on a subconscious level, creating fear in you, and the chemicals it's releasing, apart from the fact that it's distracting you from what you're doing, which is working on yourself and wanting to get stronger and fitter and vital. You got this, it's like you were talking before, I think off air, about pressing the button, the self-destruction button. It's like you're working out, but you got one finger on the self-destruction. It's like, just remember the world's shit and everyone's against you and you're going to die real soon.
Yeah.
Pressing on this button, which you're listening to. And that gave me the idea that sort of kicked off an idea to work on something that I'd always done personally, which was to listen to positive affirmations that I'd recorded before going to bed. And I did that, and that helped me make a lot of breakthroughs personally over the years. I didn't do it all the time, but every so often I would go through a burst where I'd put on my headphones, listen to these. So then what I did was I took all that I'd learnt in the coaching course about the how to free ourselves from self sabotage and how important repetition is. And then I remember Stuart Wilde, my favorite author, talking about theta waves and how
Yeah.
get a theta wave metronome to get you into that theta wave state. Because if you meditate with a theta wave metronome, it entrains the brain into that state, which is the state just before sleep or just before we wake up, where our mind is most open to adopting new thoughts. The subconscious is most open in a theta state. And in fact, we are naturally in theta for the first 7 years of our life. That's why we absorb everything. That's why Aristotle, I believe, is credited as saying, give me the child till 7 and I'll give you the man, because so much goes in there. But we can also access that theta state through entrainment. So I'm like, okay, I've got my affirmations, theta wave, I like that. And what I want to do, working one on one with clients, I want to give them something that they can take away and they'll have forever, maybe, to empower themselves so they don't need. I'd love them to keep coming back to me and paying me every week. But to me, that's a little disempowering. I want to see if I can work with you once and say, here, I've you do this questionnaire. So I created a questionnaire which was inspired in part by the course, but inspired by lots of my own study as well. And so then I had the affirmations, I had the theta, right. And then I discovered binaural beats. All right, okay, all right, binaural beats, what are they? Well, that's a different frequency in each ear, slightly different frequency in each ear.
Mm.
Do you know about binaural beats?
I do, yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
right. So,
Yep.
yeah, and what the brain does for your listeners and viewers is it picks up the difference in those frequencies and it identifies that. So if you've got 432 hertz in your left ear and 426 hertz in your right ear, the binaural beat is 6 hertz. So 6 hertz falls in the theta wave. I'm giving away all my tricks here, but 6 hertz is the theta wave. And the binaural beat, you just know, you can feel it. I've had clients recently in guided meditation say, "What's that pulse? I really love that pulse, that pulse." You can feel it. But what it does is it brings you into that theta wave state. Binaural beats are proven to have positive effects, taking you into a deeper level of meditation than meditation alone. I think there's some links to studies on my website for all this stuff. So, okay, all right. And I remember the day I got, because I love acronyms.
Yeah, you do.
Oh, right, I do. um, and and when I realized that if I personalize this and it's got affirmations and I put the theta waves in, it'll become very hypnotic. PATH. Oh, that's a path.
Mm.
Personalized affirmations, theta hypnosis. And that was my eureka moment. I'm like, this is what I'm doing. So I created my first path in about March of 2023. I'll be 25 now. Yeah, it's 2 years ago because my client, the first one I did a path for. She recently had her second one done because everything that she wanted to accomplish with the first path, she did. So then she got another one, and I think that's the best that could have happened for me, that confirmation that this work is working and valuable. So that's what I do now. I create paths for clients who know they're ready to level up their life and who can appreciate the power of the subconscious mind. They don't have to know much about it at all. All they have to know is if I listen every day for 28 days, my life is going to change for the better in amazing ways.
100%. Yeah. That's so cool how you just slowed it and just went, well, I'm not going to rush. And it just all sounds like it all just came to you. Like it was already all there. You just accessed it through your own power, right?
Yes, I have been doing this work. Louise Hay is one of my favorite self-empowerment leaders, and I think I got her book, You Can Heal Your Life. I reckon my mum had that in her small library at home, and so I would have had that over 30 years at least. And she has a very simple philosophy embodied in that book, You Can Heal Your Life,
Hmm.
that any state of disease is rooted in our own habitual thoughts, and we can identify that with the words we speak. So if you change the way you speak, you'll become more aware of what you're thinking because it's coming out in your words, but you're also telling yourself, it's a two-way thing that happens, you're also telling yourself what thoughts you are and repeating with your words, and beliefs are simply thoughts repeatedly held. So you could say beliefs are simply words repeatedly stated. As you speak, you will see.
100%. Yeah. And that's something I've learned too. Just, I've read that book as well. So that's something I've learned as well. We are what we say, it's like it's such a throwaway line, but we actually are, right? You know, yeah,
Well,
it's yeah,
we know of each other and we've seen each other on social media, but this is our first Zoom call, right? And I often say this to clients, and we get on, and I don't know. You can tell me any effing story you want about Nathan Francis, and if you say it with enough confidence, I'm going to believe it.
yeah.
I just made my first million from one of my coaching packages, Ben. Well, Nathan, that's great. Yeah, and I'm moving on to the next one. My next goal is 10 million, and I'm really excited, but I'm going to be going to gym first and see if I can beat my personal best from yesterday. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm,
or you can say, "Oh, I'm not really sure what I'm doing, and we'll see how this goes." And I really wish more people tune into my podcast. And but anyway, I'll keep going. Like, and you're not that at all.
uh,
But but we've all got every level within us,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Of self doubt, of victimhood, or of super Tony Robbins inspired achiever. And we've got to find our own way in that. But speaking well about yourself and listening, just listening. If the listeners, if you're out there, these ideas are new to you or whatever, just simply my first advice would be just pay attention and listen to yourself. And if you ever say something derogative, negative, disempowering, just take note. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to change it. But simply by becoming aware that you may be doing it, that's the first step. And it's
yeah,
such an empowering step because then you can say, I don't need to say that about myself anymore. And one thing I always like to tell my clients too is you never have to finish a negative sentence. And so that means if you start, you're talking and going, whatever it is, I don't even like to say examples because I'm that precious about what I vocalize. But if you find yourself saying something negative and you realize it, you can stop the sentence. You know, what could I say? You could be saying, I really don't know what I'm doing at the moment, but I trust that it's the best thing for me now, and I accept my challenging situation will bring out the best in me. What? Where did that go? It's going down one route, and then you just,
yeah,
and it's like you've always got to remember you're always coaching yourself. We are our first coaches.
100%. And I found that I'm just gonna add to that. I found through my last 5 years of the words I would say to people and myself. But then as you gain that conscious awareness, as you say, you do catch yourself out. Like for me, it was just an easy reaction to, I'm just going to throw my brother under the bus here. Like I would always just easily react and then insult him straight away. It doesn't matter what he'd say or what he'd do. I'd be like, you know what, go get whatever. And then as you gain that conscious awareness, you're like, hang on a minute, like why am I doing that? And then I'm not going to finish that. So it's like you go to throw out the insult as the reaction, but then you don't, and you're like, whoa, you have that moment of, whoa, why am I actually insulting you right now? Do I even need to do that? You know what
It's
I mean?
great, mate.
Yeah.
It's a great realization, and good on you for doing that so young. At a similar time, a similar age to you, I remember my best friend in high school. I loved him so much. I still love him so much. I haven't seen him for years. He did come to my wedding, but we lost touch. But I was very cruel to him when I went to England because we used to have this banter, this classic banter of many teenagers in
Oh, yeah.
Australia and no doubt throughout the world, where you just take the shit out of each other.
Yep.
You don't let anyone get too high up, and you think this is just mates. Yeah, fucking, you're useless at that. What do you do? And you find ways to almost every second sentence to each other is some sort of put down, but it's sarcastic. It doesn't we don't mean anything by it. But as I went through this period of real introspection and looking at everything in my life and the way I spoke, and I I just decided I wasn't going to do that anymore. I wasn't going to put up with that anymore. And I sort of just cut him off. And in a way that, looking back, I think might have seemed cruel, but maybe it wasn't. It was definitely what I needed to do because I did it. But we need some sensitivity when we go through these changes that we are in habitual relationships all the time. And people are used to speaking to us a certain way. And in fact, we have trained them to do that. We
Yeah.
have trained them, this is okay. Because if you're okay with it and you've always been okay with it, why wouldn't they keep speaking to you the same way, right?
Yeah.
And but it's also okay for you to say, I'd like to change the way we converse. I'd like to change the way we express our affection. And that doesn't mean you can change everything that other people do, but you can certainly show them, I'm not going to go along with that joke anymore, putting me down or even putting you down. Or I might even, instead of putting it in a sarcastic joke, just say, hey, I love you, Nathan. I really appreciate you. And I'm so glad you're my brother. Oh,
Mm.
what do I do with that?
I hope my brother listens to this now. He
Pardon?
does
I missed
listen to
that.
some of them, yeah. No,
Does he? All right.
it is very interesting, yeah, because for me with my brother and my mates back when I was, the teenager, it was always the banter. But yeah, and as you said, it would always be, oh no, I don't mean anything by it. But you sort of then gain that conscious awareness. You're like, fuck, that actually was a very hurtful thing to say. But then you go and be like, well, I didn't mean it. It's like, well, you said it, and it's like we all have feelings too, whether they laugh or they don't doesn't really matter because the subconscious can't tell the difference anyway. For me, when I would insult someone, I'd think back and go, fuck, how many times would that person have heard that insult if it wasn't from me? I could have taken them back to a child. Then it's like, well, that's why they're triggered. It's like you've said that insult, but they've heard that millions of times before, and you're like, and it's when you understand the triggering, the inner child stuff, which is what we're going to eventually go down the path of now, is you're like, whoa, the things I've actually could say to someone can hurt them not only right now, but it's hurt them many moons ago as well. That's
And
when I was like, fuck, I need to be really careful about what I say.
it's also good to remember that what we're talking about is really a power game too. There are all these little mini power games where we
Mm,
are taking power away. Okay, and we sort of have these contracts where we say, okay, you can say that about me, but I'm going to get you back. And these little power games are going on all the time where we go, yeah, yeah, all right, that's a good one. And then you'll find their weak point and you'll go in and you go, I'll get you. And this can continue. And to liberate yourself from that contract is so exciting. It can be really confronting, but it's let's get real here. It's like let's get deathbed real, right? Deathbed real, where what's my last word going to be to you? If this is the last thing I'm going to say to you, is it going to be encouraging? Is it going to be uplifting? Is it going
yeah.
to express my gratitude? Or is it going to belittle you or put you down?
As
You know,
banter.
like as banter,
Yeah.
whatever. It's
Yeah.
like this is the preciousness that we have, the energy that we have. We can uplift and we can inspire and we can encourage and we can comfort, or we can do the opposite of that, which is all fear based, yeah, and limiting.
Yeah. It's a good ponder for those listening and watching too, and for me as well to be like, what if that actually is the last thing I've said to that person? And how does that, like, if they were to cross over tomorrow, how would you sit with that being the last thing you've said? You know, you've just opened up a interesting thing for me here to just ponder my old relationships and current ones about what I've said. And oh God, every podcast I do, Ben, someone always says something that I'm then gonna ponder. Yeah, it's just unbelievable. Like
Well,
I've cried
why?
and
That's you should cry, open up. We're all here to learn and to grow, and not just your listeners, but you and I. And this is what authenticity does, and sharing from your heart, and talking about things that really matter. About
mm,
what are you doing with your life? What sort of man or woman are you going to be? And today is the day to do that. Today is the day to be that. Not tomorrow,
100%.
not go back to your habits after listening to this. It's like, what can I change now to feel better and to be a more loving force in this universe, in this realm?
We need more loving force because then that we know what that does to the evil, don't we?
Well, all I know is I feel better when I am full of love and radiating love and focusing less and less and less on the evil and more and more on my power, my authority. standing in my authority to create my world how I want it and to take the responsibility that comes with that. I feel much better when I take that route.
I love that. Ben, we've been going for a bit. This has been a really awesome chat. But I just want to circle to something that you did this video. We're going to put a link to it in the show notes. You called it your most emotional video yet. And you spoke a lot about the child in you. And when you were talking about the child in you, it took me back to the child in me. And it made me a bit emotional as well. Because you said in the video that you were going back and you were creating for that child. That child was able to express its creativity. I think that's what you were trying to say. I don't think you actually said that. That's just how I took it. That's how I implied it. And
Mhm.
it just put it into perspective for me with my child. If someone's out there listening right now, which we'll put a link to that video,
Mm.
what did that mean to you for that child for you to say something like that? Because you really expressed your authenticity and you're really emotional, something our young men and men aren't doing it at the moment, as you are very well aware. I just wanted to circle into that conversation because that was really empowering video. 4.5 minutes.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
thanks, Nathan. And that video was prompted by getting a testimonial message to me from a path client. And it was so heartfelt, and there was such transformation in that testimonial that I was so moved. I just went out to the backyard to record my feelings because, like you saying, when we are ourselves sharing authentic feelings and ideas, they resonate beyond so much of what we hear. And I guess in terms of my inner child and your inner child and all of our inner childs, children, uh, I always encourage during various meditations, I often do this, but I'll always encourage clients to think about your 7-year-old self
Mm.
and get a picture of a photo if you've got one of your 7-year-old self, or bring it up in your mind and just see your adult self now looking and how would you feel, and would you offer encouragement and love, and would you say you're perfect how you are, I love you so much, you're doing so well, and you can expect a bright future. Your life is going to be amazing. It already is. And you are learning every day, and every experience you have will uplift you and will teach you. And no matter what happens, I want you to remember that you are destined for a great life, and you're having a great life now. And you can change, and you will change, and that is normal, and that is good. And keep your dream alive. Keep it alive and let it grow, let it change, but keep dreaming, because this is a magical world and you are the magic in this world.
I got goosebumps from head to toe. That was unbelievable.
Well, and we can all
Oh
find
man,
our.
that was awesome. That was really beautiful. I really hope we can people can listen to that over and over and over again. That was awesome. Come and
And
work with you.
what a world it would be, right, Nathan, if we did listen to that once a day,
Yeah.
and instead of the news, which
Mm.
is not objective. Remember that it's subjective control. Not to take us down a, sad path to finish with, but reality is you've got these words coming to you all the time. You can turn them off. You can just turn it off, and you can find people like me. There's lots of people like me who simply want to put encouraging thoughts into your mind, who want to help you connect as we have found our connection with our inner child, with our dreams, with our authenticity through so many people. And we've talked about some of them today, Jason, especially Christoph, in this podcast. But so many others have helped me, have helped Nathan, and they're out there to help you too. And all you need to do is be open to receiving that, and it'll turn up in your life.
That's a. I was going to ask you how, like a beautiful piece of advice to finish, but you've already just given it. Ben, that was awesome. Thank you for everything that you've shared today. If there is anything else you would like to share before we do wrap it up, feel free. If not, that was awesome. Thank you so much for everything you've given me today and my listeners and my audience.
Thank you so much. The only thing I want to share now is that I did share with a client recently, a path client, that I had this dream, or I have this dream of giving a path to everyone in the world who wants one. So that's a personalized affirmations theta hypnosis, a coaching audio like what I said then, but it's a bit longer, which has your dreams in them. And this guy, he said, he's an older guy, and he said, "That's a great idea. I reckon that's fantastic." And I was really surprised because he was not quite a father figure, but sort of like that, and was like, oh, great. I felt like pumped up, like it's a good idea. Like he didn't say like, "Oh, that'll be hard." He just said, "Great idea, go for it." And so to that end, I'm beginning to prepare to train other people to be path coaches so that they can do the work that I'm doing, because I won't be able to do it alone. I
Mm,
don't think I can make that many million by myself. So that's the next phase. But if you're interested, check out my website, grant-empowerment. Is it grant-empowerment.com? I don't know. You'll find it in the links anyway, right?
yeah, they will. Yeah. Ben, thanks. Thanks. I'm actually, I'm actually interested in that. I'm gonna just gonna keep an eye out for that, and
Keep an eye out. I
I'm
think you'd
gonna.
make a great path coach,
Yeah,
Nathan. You're already on the path, mate.
exactly. Yeah. So Ben, thank you for everything you've shared. You've already put in there where people can find you.
Yep.
Just another quick one. So is it just Ben Mitchell on Instagram, Facebook, socials?
Instagram is Ben Grant Mitchell,
Yep.
and Facebook, I believe, is the same. Yeah, Ben Grant
Yep.
Mitchell.
We'll put all the links to Ben in the bottom. You can go and find Ben and find his work. His work is awesome, and I think I'm gonna have to get a path hypnosis recording off you too, I think.
It'd be a pleasure to do it for you, mate.
All right, Ben, thank you so much. Everyone, thank you for listening and watching. I'm gonna get Ben back on the next few months. We're not gonna wait 3 years. We're gonna come back and get Ben back on and have another conversation because I feel like everything you've shared today was awesome. So thank you for listening and watching wherever in the world you are. Talk to you guys all again soon. Cheers.